Majora's Mask has a wide variety of exciting and challenging mini-bosses, and in today's video, I'll be ranking each of them from worst to best. For this list, I'm considering each boss's design, battle, location, and overall character. I'll be referencing the N64 version, so there will be some subtle differences to the 3DS remake, but nothing too significant. With all that out the way, we've got 13 mini-bosses to rank, so let's jump to it. The worst mini-boss in my opinion is the Wizzrobe, an enemy you face a whopping 5 times in this game. First found in Snowhead Temple, the Wizzrobe fight occurs in a rather bland room with 4 pedestals. The challenge lies in identifying which of these pedestals Wizzrobe is on, and damaging the creep before he launches an ice attack. The gimmick of finding the true identity is great, and had everything else around the fight been improved, then this wouldn't be last on the list. But the fight drags on, and it doesn't get much better in any of the subsequent rematches. Also, what on earth is this design? It's one of the ugliest character models in all of Zelda. That's unjust for a reoccurring enemy with a typically pleasing aesthetic. But perhaps I'm alone in this view, because for this ranking video, I ran polls on Instagram to see what my followers thought were the best and worst mini-bosses, and the Wizzrobe didn't even make the bottom 4. You can see how each mini-boss fared on the Instagram poll in the corner of this video, and if you want to contribute to future rankings, then follow me at Hungry Heracross. On to the next one. Another mini-boss that features the Find the Correct One gimmick are the Poe Sisters. Well, one of them does, Meg, the cool purple one that we all love. To be fair, they all look pretty amazing, but the other 3 sisters fight like regular Poe enemies, so it's hard to place them any higher on the list. As enjoyable as defeating these coloured ghosts are, their inclusion felt forced and awkward. It was like the developers wanted to include these cool character models from Ocarina of Time, but didn't want to make them a central aspect of a dungeon, so they just got thrown into a random house in Ikana. I don't think the Poe Sisters needed to be in this game, but I do enjoy seeing them again. The first mini-boss in the game makes an epic entrance that rivals those of the main bosses. The sword-wielding, fire-breathing dinosaur looks amazing, and the Woodfall Temple is a fitting location for the first duel. Being an early game enemy, there isn't anything too intricate like we see in later mini-bosses, but it's still an enjoyable fight that puts your swordsmanship to the test. As the Dino Alphals reappear in later dungeons, they fight in pairs, so the challenge adjusts as you progress. It's the perfect introduction to Majora's Mask's mini-bosses. The King's Lackeys will dance to the Bremen Mask, and that alone makes them a great mini-boss, but there's more positives than that. The combat aspects of this fight plays out very similar to the Dynalfo's fight, except a little bit harder, which is great given that you're 3/4 into the game. However, to truly defeat these undead soldiers, you'll need to shine a light on their corpse. It's a great use of the recently acquired Mirror Shield and a nice variation to typical sword fights. But as good as these Lackeys are, they're overshadowed by another fight that takes place immediately after in the same room. It makes these villains feel somewhat insignificant and keeps them from being any higher on the list. Entering this boss fight to see Gekko is underwhelming, especially coming off the epic showdown against the Dynalphos. Even Tattle remarks that this mini-boss looks weak, but after a few hits, it teams up with a Snapper, and that's where the fun begins. To knock Gekko off the turtle, you'll need to use your Deku mask to burrow into a flower and fly up once Snapper walks over you. It's a great way to incorporate the transformation mask into the battle. From there, you finish the fight by shooting the amphibian with an arrow. The way this fight combines different items and masks is quite seamless. I love the idea of 2 weaker enemies teaming up to take on a stronger foe. I also like the touch of Gekko actually being one of the frogs that you need to find as part of the Don Gero side quest. The fact that this is only 9th should speak volume to the quality of the mini-bosses in Majora's Mask, at least in my opinion. On Instagram, this finished last, so I don't know what's going on there. The legendary Captain Keeta shakes up the boss battle formula by doing something that no other boss really does. After awakening this ancient soldier, he runs away, sending his minions to fight you instead. By defeating the Stole Children and catching up to the captain, he will engage in battle. Keeta looks epic, and the story and lore surrounding him is so interesting, but the battle leaves a lot to be desired. For a fight against a seasoned war veteran, it's a little disappointing how short and uninteractive it is. That still, Keeta is one of my favourite characters in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him at the top of many lists. Speaking of which, make sure to leave your ranking in the comments, and whilst you're there, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. It's all really appreciated. The Iron Knuckle is one of the more intimidating enemies found in the game. Its slow movements, strong defenses and heavy damage output make this mini-boss fight one of the hardest in the game. The first duel against this warrior occurs in a unique room with a show curtain of all things. The atmosphere of this graveyard location makes the fight feel eerie. There's a sense of high stakes, but it's unclear what the Iron Knuckle is protecting or why you're even facing it. Later fights with this armoured fiend don't have that same interest or intrigue, but there's still intense challenges that are rewarding to complete. An all-round great mini-boss. The Gerudo Pirates are fierce warriors that wield a pair of swords. They attempt to prevent Link from retrieving Lulu's eggs by ambushing him in certain rooms of the pirate fortress. The build up to these fights are awesome as you don't see it coming. The rooms lock and these villains drop down from the ceiling, ready to slice you open. Their fast, agile attacks lead to some high-paced duels that keep you on your toes. The design of the 3 Gerudo Pirates that attack you are an improvement on the other Gerudo found in the game. There's more intricacy into their outfits and they're far more menacing. I do wish though that we faced off against Aviel, their leader, and that we were able to get some redemption for Mikau's murder, but it doesn't detract from the quality of this mini-boss duel. And now this is how you do a boss repeat. Gekko is back for a second time, but rather than repeat his shtick with the turtle, he gains a new friend in the Choo Choo like Mad Jelly. This fight is fantastic. The first phase has you weaving through the Mad Jelly to strike down the Gekko, which isn't as easy as it sounds. Once hit, Gekko will surround himself in a yellow mass, climb to the ceiling and attempt to pulverize you. Dodging this attack is a challenge, but it's worth getting struck at least once to see Gekko beat the living daylights out of Link. But once you've had your fun, shoot him with an ice arrow so that he can be stuck down again. This Gekko is a cursed frog that forms part of the Don Gero side quests, and I'm just a big fan of defeating a cursed creature and restoring them to normality. It adds a nice story element to an otherwise random baddie. Wart is one of the more underrated bosses in the entire series. As you enter the boss room, it appears empty until you look up and see this abomination. Wart is a giant eye surrounded by a ton of smaller bubbles, giving it a terrifying presence. You can use almost anything in your arsenal to pop all the bubbles, to leave some of the eye exposed for an attack. I love the creativity this fight allows, and the limited space in the room can make the encounter feel claustrophobic. After enough bubbles are gone, Wart goes beast mode, speeding around the room trying to crush Link. It's a lot of fun trying to dodge its onslaughts whilst also trying to land that finishing blow. An amazing mini boss fight that I wouldn't mind seeing repeated in a future Zelda title. The final mini-boss of the game, Gomess, strongly resembles a Grim Reaper, or Darkrai if you're a Pokemon fan. Aesthetically, it's a pleasure to behold. The bright auburn eyes, hidden beneath its jet black cape of a body, all whilst wielding a terrifying weapon surrounded by bats, is truly marvellous. The fight is rather simple. Shoot the light arrows to scare the bats, and attack the shiny orb, but Gomess comes at you with a flurry of attacks to make things a little difficult. The way it wields its scythe is both terrifying and incredible. It feels like any hit from this blade could kill you, which adds to the superb tension throughout the fight. Its entrance is epic, its departure even more so, and it's an all-round nightmare of a boss. In most other games, it would take out number 1 spot, but this is Majora's Mask. We've still got 2 heavy hitters to come. Acquiring the Garo Mask is pretty cool. Facing off against the Gekko and Ikana is pretty awesome, But as you move through the stone tower temple and come to an open room to see a purple cladded creature looking down on you, well, now that's just something else. The Garo Master knows how to make an entrance, eclipsing anything we've discussed prior. It reveals its blades and then launches an all-out attack. This is the type of warrior the Gerudo Pirates wish they could be. Extremely agile, incredibly precise, and outright chaotic. This fight is a masterpiece. You need to be on your toes or else the Garo Master will make short work of you. The way this game drastically upgrades the fight from the regular enemy whilst keeping the same feeling is truly remarkable. The only slight gripe I have with the N64 version is that the Garo Master's mask doesn't actually match the villain, but this is corrected in the remake and is only a minor nitpick. Otherwise, there's not too much more you can ask for. It's just an incredibly fun, awe-inspiring mini-boss battle that lives long in the memories of all Majora's Mask fans. Topping this list we have the Great King Igos du Ikana. This mini-boss has everything that you could want. This is an ancient king with important lore to the game's story, making them more than just some random villain. They have a regal appearance, from their crowning piece to their whole outfit, which is some crazy detail given it's just a skeleton. Then there's the throne room, a perfect location for the fight. It's visually pleasing and has some story relevance. And of course, we've got the all-important battle. For the most part, it's another sword fight where you need to dodge his attacks and land your own, but during the fight, the king's head will break off from its body, follow you around, bite you so that the body will come back and land some hits. It's a dirty trick, but it's amusing and I love it. After he's done, you'll need to cremate him with sunlight as you do the Lackeys, which again I love because it makes use of another item. But before he parts, he shares some wisdom, teaches you a horrible song, and leaves us with the memory of the best mini-boss in Majora's Mask. But that's just my opinion, I want to hear yours, so let me know down in the comments. For comparison, here's my list compared to the list as voted on my Instagram page. If you want to be involved in future polls, follow me at Hungry Heracross and keep an eye on my stories. But until next time, I hope you stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you next time on the Hungry Heracross.